Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the red dwarf star cast its dying light across Kepler Station. The mining colony hung in space like a metal flower, its arms reaching out into the darkness. 12,000 people called this place home. Soon, they might all be dead. Jake pressed his hand against the cold metal wall and felt the vibrations from the station's massive mining equipment. Even now, with enemy ships surrounding them, the miners kept working. They had families to feed and bills to pay. They did not know that 40 alien warships waited just beyond the asteroid field. "Sir, we have movement on the outer sensors," said Lieutenant Ben Cooper from his position at the communications desk. His voice shook slightly. Ben was only 22 years old and had never seen real combat before today. Jake walked over to the main display screen. Red dots filled the tactical map like angry bees around a hive. Each dot represented a Vorthan warship, sleek and deadly. The aliens had been moving through human space for months, taking colonies one by one. Now they had come for Kepler Station. "How many ships do we have ready to fight?" Jake asked his weapons officer, Commander Sue Martinez. She had served with him for 5 years and knew every bolt and wire on their small fleet. 6 patrol boats and 2 frigates, sir. The Defender and the Guardian are our biggest ships, but they are old. Real old. Sue's dark eyes met his. The Vorthans have 40 ships, sir. Brand new ones with heavy weapons. Jake nodded slowly. 8 ships against 40. The math was simple and brutal, but math had never stopped humans before. "Send word to all ship captains. We fight." Down in the medical bay, Dr. Lisa Carter checked her supplies for the 3rd time that morning. Bandages, pain medication, surgical, tools, and emergency blood plasma filled the shelves around her. She had worked as a doctor on the frontier for 15 years, but she had never prepared for a battle like this. "Mom, the evacuation is almost complete," said her daughter Amy, running into the medical bay with her blonde hair flying behind her. At 17, Amy had her mother's green eyes and her father's stubborn streak. "Dad says the lower levels are ready to hold everyone," Lisa smiled at her daughter. Amy had grown up on Kepler Station, playing in the mining tunnels and learning to fix equipment before she could read properly. The girl knew every corridor and maintenance shaft in the entire station. "Good work, honey. Are the children safe?" "Yes." "Mom, Mrs. Johnson is reading them stories in shelter number 3. The little ones think it's just a game." Amy's voice got quiet. "But the older kids know what's happening." Lisa pulled her daughter close. Amy smelled like machine oil and recycled air, the sense of home. "Your father is a good engineer. Those shelters will keep everyone safe." Deep in the station's engineering section, Pete Sullivan crawled through a maintenance tunnel, checking power connections with a handheld scanner. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he worked in the tight space. The station's shields needed every bit of power he could give them. Pete had built half of Kepler Station with his own hands. He knew which pipes carried water and which carried waste. He knew where the emergency power cells were hidden and how to reroute electricity when systems failed. Today, all of that knowledge might save lives. "Computer, show me shield power levels," he said into his comm device. "Shield generators operating at 67% capacity," the computer replied in its calm, electronic voice. "Estimated time to failure under enemy fire. 43 minutes. Pete cursed under his breath. 43 minutes was not enough time. He needed to find more power somewhere. He crawled deeper into the tunnel, heading for the backup generators that most people had forgotten about. On the bridge of the lead Vorthan ship, Admiral Kresh studied the human colony with cold yellow eyes. His scales gleamed under the ship's lights as he moved his long neck to get a better view of the tactical display. The humans had only 8 small warships to defend their mining station. It would be over quickly. "Admiral, the humans are powering. Up their weapons," reported his second-in-command, Captain Thale. The younger Vorthan's tail twitched with excitement. Should we destroy them now? Kresh's thin lips pulled back to show sharp teeth. No, send them our standard message first. I want to see if these humans have any sense. The message went out on all frequencies. Human Colony Kepler Station, this is Admiral Kresh of the Vorthan Empire. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now and your people will be relocated to work camps. Resist and you will all die. You have 1 hour to decide. Jake read the message on his command screen and felt anger rise in his chest. Work camps. The Vorthans made it sound so simple and clean. But Jake had seen the reports from other colonies. The aliens worked humans to death in their mines and factories. Families were split up. Children were taken from parents. The lucky ones died quickly. Open a channel to all ships, Jake ordered. Channel open, sir. Jake took a deep breath. This is Captain Morrison to all defending vessels. The enemy wants us to surrender. They want us to give up our families, our homes, and our freedom. I say no. We have lived free on this station for 20 years. We will not bow down to alien masters today. He paused, looking out at the red star that had watched over them for so long. I know we are outnumbered. I know our ships are old and our weapons are weak. But we are human beings, and human beings do not quit when things get hard. We fight. We protect what we love. And if we die today, we die as free people. The radio crackled with responses from his small fleet. Captain Nancy White of the patrol boat Comet spoke first. The Comet stands ready, sir. The Ranger is with you, Captain, added Commander Joe Parker. One by one, all 8 ship captains reported ready for battle. Jake felt pride swell in his chest. These were good people, brave people. They deserved better than to die alone in the darkness. Sir, Ben Cooper called from his station. I'm picking up a faint signal from the inner systems. It's very weak, but it looks like a standard communication pulse. Jake walked over to the communications board. Can you boost the signal? I'm trying, sir. There, got it. Ben's fingers flew over his controls. Sir, it's a message from the Centauri colonies. They say Earth is mobilizing. Some kind of big fleet. Jake's heart jumped. Earth. The home world that most colonists had never seen. For 20 years, Kepler Station had received only basic supplies and occasional messages from the inner systems. Most people thought Earth had forgotten about the outer colonies. How old is the message? 3 weeks, sir. It would take any Earth fleet months to reach us from there. Jake's hope faded as quickly as it had come. Months. They had maybe an hour before the Vorthons attacked. Still, he looked up at the stars, beyond the red dwarf, and sent a silent message toward the inner systems. We are here. We are human. We need help. Time was running out. Admiral Kate Bishop walked across the observation deck of the Pacific Fleet Command Center, her boots clicking against the polished metal floor. Through the massive windows, she could see the blue waters of Earth's ocean stretching to the horizon. Huge shipyards floated on the water's surface, their construction cranes reaching up like metal trees. Kate had spent 30 years in Earth's military, fighting pirates in the asteroid belt and keeping peace between the Mars colonies. At 55, her hair had turned gray, but her blue eyes still burned with the fire of a warrior. Today, that fire would be tested like never before. Admiral, we have an urgent message from the outer colonies, called Major Tim Brooks from the communications center. His face was pale as he read the decoded transmission. It's from Kepler Station, ma'am. They're under attack. Kate moved quickly to the main display table. The holographic map of human space appeared above the surface, showing trade routes, colony positions, and military installations. The outer rim looked almost empty compared to the busy inner systems. Play the message, Kate ordered. Jake Morrison's voice filled the command center, broken by static and distance. This is Captain Morrison of Kepler Station to any Earth forces receiving this transmission. We are under attack by the Vorthon Empire. 40 enemy warships are demanding our surrender. Our population is 12,000 civilians with minimal defense capabilities. We cannot hold out long. The Vorthons have taken 17 other colonies in this sector. If anyone is listening, we need help. Please, if Earth still remembers us, come quickly." The message ended, leaving the command center in silence. Kate felt cold anger growing in her stomach. 17 colonies. How had Earth's intelligence services missed an entire alien invasion? When was this message sent? Kate asked. 3 weeks ago, Admiral. It came through the quantum relay network, but the signal was very weak. Kate did quick math in her head. 3 weeks for the message to travel from the outer rim to Earth. If the Vorthons had been attacking for months, most of those colonies were probably gone already, but maybe, just maybe, some people were still alive and fighting. Get me President. Rogers on the secure line? Priority 1? 20 minutes later, Kate sat in the underground meeting room beneath the Global Defense Council building. President Danny Rogers looked tired as he read through the intelligence reports spread across the conference table. At 48, Danny had been elected on a platform of peace and domestic improvement. War had not been part of his plans. 17. Colonies, Danny said quietly. That's almost 200,000 people. Maybe more, Mr. President, replied General Linda Hayes, the head of Earth's military intelligence. We lost contact with most outer rim settlements 6 months ago. We assumed it was just normal communication delays. Kate slammed her hand on the table. We should have been watching. We should have known. Admiral, we have limited resources, said Defense Secretary Carl Martinez. Earth's population is 15 billion people. The outer colonies have maybe 5 million total, spread across dozens of star systems. We focused our attention where we thought it mattered most. Those are human beings out there, Kate shot back. They left Earth to build new worlds, to expand human civilization. We owe them protection. President Rogers held up his hand for silence. Admiral Bishop is right. We cannot abandon our people no matter how far away they are. He looked around the table at his advisors. What military options do we have? General Hayes opened a secure tablet and began reading. Our active fleet consists of 230 warships, ranging from patrol boats to heavy cruisers. Most are assigned to inter-system defense and trade route protection. What about the new ships? Kate asked. The ones being built in the Jupiter yards? A strange look passed between the president and his defense secretary. Carl cleared his throat. Admiral, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. For the past 15 years, Earth has been secretly building a new generation of warships. Kate raised an eyebrow. Secret from whom? From everyone. The colonies, the media, even most of our own military, President Rogers said. After the Centauri uprising 20 years ago, we realized that human expansion had made us vulnerable. We needed ships that could project power across interstellar distances. Carl activated a wall display. Images of massive starships appeared, their hulls gleaming with unknown metals and strange weapon arrays. Kate had never seen designs like these before. The Titan-class dreadnoughts are 3 kilometers long, Carl explained. They carry quantum shield generators, hyperspace jump drives, and fusion plasma cannons. Each ship has the firepower to destroy an entire enemy fleet. How many do we have? 12 Titan-class ships are ready for deployment. We also have 40 heavy cruisers, 60 destroyers, and 50 support vessels, all built with technology that didn't exist when the outer colonies were established. Kate stared at the ship's specifications, scrolling across the screen. Quantum shielding that could stop asteroid impacts, weapons that could crack moons, faster-than-light communication systems that made the old relay networks look like smoke signals. Why? Keep this secret from the colonies? Kate asked. Because we didn't want to start an arms race, President Rogers replied. If other alien civilizations knew what we were building, they might have attacked us before we were ready. Well, they're attacking us now, Kate said grimly. What's our response going to be? President Rogers stood up and walked to the window, overlooking the city. Millions of people lived and worked in the buildings below, safe and comfortable on humanity's homeworld. They had no idea that their cousins in the Outer Rim were fighting for their lives. Admiral Bishop, I'm authorizing Operation Homecoming. You will take First Fleet to the Outer Rim and drive back this Vorthon Empire. Save as many colonies as you can. Show these aliens that humanity is not an easy target. Kate felt her warrior's heart beat faster. How many ships, sir? 150 vessels. Everything we can spare without leaving Earth defenseless. Kate did the math quickly. 150 Earth ships with advanced technology and fresh crews against an unknown number of Vorthon vessels. The odds were better, but still dangerous. Mr. President, we don't know anything about Vorthon military capabilities. Their weapons, their tactics, their ship designs. We'll be flying blind. General Hayes opened another file. Actually, we have some intelligence. Dr. Helen Parks at the Xenobiology Institute has been studying Vorthon physiology from refugee reports, and we've intercepted some of their communications. A thin woman with short brown hair entered the meeting room. Dr. Helen. Parks looked more like a librarian than a military advisor, but Kate knew her reputation. Helen had written the book on alien contact protocols. The Vorthans are reptilian, cold-blooded, with enhanced strength and speed, Helen began. They're also aggressive, territorial, and view other species as either threats or resources. Their military doctrine emphasizes overwhelming force and quick victory. What about their technology? Kate asked. Similar to what the outer colonies have. Fusion drives, particle beam weapons, basic shielding. Nothing as advanced as our new fleet. Capabilities. Kate nodded. That was good news, at least. How long to prepare the fleet for departure? The ships are ready now, Carl said. We've been running combat drills for months. The crews are trained and equipped. You could launch within 24 hours. President Rogers turned back to face the group. Admiral, this mission is more than just a rescue operation. If we succeed, we establish Earth as a major power in this region of space. If we fail, the Vorthans might come looking for our homeworld next. Kate stood at attention. I understand, Mr. President. First Fleet will not fail. As the meeting broke up, Kate walked back to the observation deck. The sun was setting over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Soon she would leave this beautiful world behind and travel into the darkness between stars. She would carry Earth's power to places that had never seen a human warship. Her comm device buzzed. Admiral, this is Captain Roy Jenkins aboard the ESS Valiant. First Fleet is assembled and ready for your orders. Kate smiled. Roy was young for a ship captain, only 32, but he had graduated first in his class from the Naval Academy. If the coming battles were as hard as she expected, she would need officers with his skill and courage. Prepare for departure, Captain. We have people to save and aliens to fight. Understood, Admiral. The fleet awaits your command. Kate took one last look at Earth's blue oceans and white clouds. Somewhere in the darkness, human colonists were counting down their final hours. But they didn't know that help was coming. They didn't know that Earth had been preparing for this moment for 15 years. Soon, the Vorthon Empire would learn what happened when you threatened humanity's children. Admiral Kate Bishop floated through the docking tube that connected her shuttle to the ESS Valiant, Earth's newest and most powerful warship. Through the transparent walls, she could see the ship's massive hull stretching away in both directions. 3 kilometers of advanced human engineering, built in secret and hidden from the galaxy until now. The Valiant's bridge was bigger than most colony command centers. Holographic displays showed every system on the ship, from the fusion reactors, deep in the engine room to the quantum sensors that could detect a single enemy ship at 10 light-years distance. Captain Roy Jenkins stood at the central command station, his young face serious as he reviewed the tactical situation. Admiral on the bridge, announced Lieutenant Sarah Wilson, the ship's communications officer. Kate waved for everyone to stay, at their positions as she walked over to Captain Jenkins. "Report, Captain." Roy activated the main display screen. The image showed the space around Earth, but not the empty darkness that most people imagined. Hundreds of ships moved through the solar system, their running lights creating rivers of stars against the black. "First Fleet is assembled and ready for departure, Admiral. 150 vessels, including 12 Titan-class dreadnoughts, 40 heavy cruisers, 60 destroyers, and 38 support ships. Total crew complement is 47,000 personnel." Kate nodded as she studied the fleet formation. Each ship represented years of secret construction and billions of credits in advanced technology. "What's our jump capability?" "The entire fleet can make the journey to the Outer Rim in 6 hyperspace jumps. Total travel time will be 8 days, assuming no delays." 8 days. Kate wondered if there would be anyone left to save after 8 days. But it was the best they could do with the vast distances involved. "Admiral, would you like to see the special weapons demonstration?" Roy asked. Kate raised an eyebrow. "Special weapons?" Roy smiled. "Something the research teams finished just last month. I think you'll be impressed." They walked to the observation deck at the front of the ship. Through the armored windows, Kate could see a small asteroid floating about, 50 kilometers away. The rock was maybe 200 meters across, big enough to destroy a city if it hit a planet. "Computer, activate gravity lance. Minimal power setting," Roy commanded. Kate felt a slight vibration through the ship's hull. On the main display, she watched a beam of invisible energy reach out from the Valiant toward the asteroid. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the rock simply collapsed in on itself, crushed into a ball of compressed matter no bigger than a basketball. "What the hell was that?" Kate asked. "Artificial gravity manipulation," Roy explained. "We can create gravity fields strong enough to crush enemy ships or tear them apart. At full power, the gravity lance can affect targets up to 1,000 kilometers away." Kate stared at the compressed remains of the asteroid. "How many ships have this weapon?" "All 12 Titan-class dreadnoughts, plus the heavy cruisers. The destroyers carry a smaller version. This changed everything." Kate had been worried about fighting an enemy with unknown capabilities. But if Earth's ships could manipulate gravity itself, the Vortons were in for a very unpleasant surprise. "Show me the rest of the fleet," Kate ordered. They walked through the ship's corridors toward the hangar bay. The Valiant was like a floating city, with shops, restaurants, medical facilities, and recreation areas for the crew. Kate had served on many ships during her career, but nothing like this. In the hangar bay, she saw row after row of small fighter craft. These weren't the simple patrol ships used by the outer colonies. Each fighter was sleek and deadly, with swept-back wings and weapon pods that could destroy targets much larger than themselves. "Phase fighters," Roy explained. "They can shift, partially out of normal space, making them almost impossible to hit. Each one carries quantum torpedoes and plasma cannons." Commander Bill Tracy, the ship's fighter wing leader, saluted as they approached. He was a veteran pilot with 20 years of experience flying everything from cargo haulers to military interceptors. "Admiral, my pilots are ready to show these aliens what human fighters can do," Bill said with confidence. Kate looked at the young men and women working on their ships. Most were in their 20s, born and raised on Earth with no knowledge of the hardships faced by the outer colonies. But they were well-trained and eager to fight. "Commander, your fighters will be crucial in the coming battles. The colonies have been holding out with patrol boats and mining ships. When they see what real military hardware can do, it will give them hope." From the Valiant, Kate took a shuttle to visit other ships in the fleet. The ESS Thunder was a heavy cruiser designed for long-range bombardment. Its captain, Linda Foster, showed Kate the ship's main weapon, a particle beam cannon that could punch through an enemy ship's hull from 1,000,000 kilometers away. The ESS Lightning was a destroyer, built for speed and stealth. Captain Mike Turner demonstrated its cloaking system, which made the ship invisible to most sensors. These destroyers would scout ahead of the main fleet, gathering intelligence and clearing the way for the heavier ships. But the most impressive vessel was the ESS Titan, the first of the massive dreadnoughts. Captain Eve Miller gave Kate a tour of the ship's weapon decks, where rows of missile launchers could fire quantum warheads capable of destroying entire enemy formations. Each quantum warhead has the explosive power of a small sun, Eve explained as they walked past the loading mechanisms. We carry 200 warheads per ship. Kate did quick math in her head. 12 dreadnoughts, 200 warheads each. That was enough firepower to sterilize a dozen planets. She hoped it wouldn't come to that, but it was good to know Earth had options. The tour ended at the fleet's command center, located aboard the ESS Valiant. Here, Admiral Bishop could coordinate the movements of all 150 ships, track enemy positions, and adjust tactics in real time. Dr. Helen Parks was waiting in the command center with a team of xenobiology specialists. She had prepared detailed briefings on Vorthon military tactics, based on intercepted communications and refugee reports. Admiral, we've learned that the Vorthans prefer direct assault tactics, Helen explained, gesturing to a holographic display showing alien ship formations. They rely on superior numbers and overwhelming firepower. Their ships are heavily armored but slow to maneuver. What about their weapons? Plasma cannons and kinetic projectiles, mostly. Their technology is about 50 years behind our current capabilities. However, they make up for it with aggressive tactics and experience fighting weaker opponents. Kate studied the tactical data. The Vorthons had been conquering colonies for months, perfecting their invasion strategies against lightly defended human settlements. But they had never faced a real military force with advanced weapons and trained crews. Dr. Parks, what's your assessment of their leadership structure? Highly centralized. Each fleet is commanded by an admiral who makes all tactical decisions. If we can eliminate the command ship, the rest of their fleet will likely become confused and disorganized. That was useful information. Kate made a mental note to prioritize command vessels in any engagement. As the briefing continued, Kate felt a growing sense of confidence. Earth's fleet was not just larger and better equipped than anything the Vorthans had faced before. It was also led by officers who understood modern warfare and had access to weapons that bordered on science fiction. Captain Jenkins, what's our estimated arrival time at Kepler Station? Roy checked his navigation computer. If we leave within the next 6 hours, we'll reach the outer rim in 8 days. But Admiral, long-range sensors are showing a lot of Vorthon activity in that area. We might have to fight our way through several enemy fleets. Kate smiled grimly. Good. Let them come. It's time the galaxy learned what happens when you attack human beings. She activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Bishop. In 6 hours, we depart for the Outer Rim to rescue our people and drive back the Vorthon Empire. For too long, Earth has remained quiet while others thought we were weak. Today, we show them their mistake. The response was immediate. 47,000 voices replied as one. Yes, Admiral! Kate looked out at the stars beyond Earth's atmosphere. Somewhere in that darkness, human colonists were fighting for their lives with outdated weapons and desperate courage. They thought they had been forgotten by their home world. They had no idea that Earth's most powerful fleet was coming to their rescue. The Vorthon Empire was about to learn a hard lesson about human determination, and the outer colonies were about to discover that Earth had not forgotten them after all. The ESS Valiant's hyperspace drive activated with a sound like thunder rolling through the ship's hull. Admiral Kate Bishop felt the familiar sensation of reality bending around them as Earth's first fleet jumped toward the outer rim. Through the bridge windows, the stars stretched into lines of light, then vanished completely as the ships entered the strange space between dimensions. "Jump complete, Admiral," reported Captain Roy Jenkins from his command station. "All ships have successfully entered hyperspace. Estimated arrival at jump point 2 in 36 hours. Kate nodded and walked to the tactical display. The holographic map showed their route through 6 jump points, each one bringing them closer to the war zone. Intelligence reports suggested that Vorthan patrols controlled most of the space between jump points 4 and 6. "Captain, I want reconnaissance teams ready to launch the moment we exit hyperspace at each jump point. We need to know what we're flying into." "Already arranged, Admiral. Lieutenant Commander Sam Turner and his stealth squadron will scout ahead of the main fleet." Sam Turner was one of Earth's best reconnaissance pilots, with 15 years of experience flying dangerous missions in contested space. His ship, the ESS Phantom, was equipped with the most advanced stealth technology Earth had ever developed. As the fleet traveled through hyperspace, Kate toured the other ships to check on crew readiness. The soldiers and sailors were eager but nervous. Most had never seen combat outside of training exercises. Soon, they would face an enemy that had been fighting and winning battles for months. On the heavy cruiser ESS Thunder, Kate found the crew conducting weapon drills. Captain Linda Foster stood on the bridge, calling out targeting commands as her gunners practiced engaging multiple enemy ships. Hostile vessels at bearing 270 range 50,000 kilometers. All batteries engage. The ship's particle beam cannons swiveled smoothly toward their imaginary targets. On the display screens, computer simulations showed enemy ships being destroyed by precise fire. "Good shooting," Kate told the weapons crew. "But remember, the Vorthons won't stay still like training targets. They'll be trying to kill you while you're trying to kill them." A young gunner raised his hand. "Admiral, is it true that the aliens eat human prisoners?" Kate had heard the same rumors from refugee reports. "I don't know, son. But I do know that we're not going to let them capture any of our people to find out." On the destroyer ESS Lightning, Captain Mike Turner showed Kate the ship's advanced sensor array. The equipment could detect enemy vessels at incredible distances and track their movements through space. "Admiral, we're already picking up Vorthon communication signals from the Outer Rim," Mike reported. "It looks like they're coordinating a major offensive against the remaining human colonies." Kate studied the intercepted messages on the display screen. The alien text had been translated by Earth's computer systems, revealing plans to attack 3 more colonies within the next 2 weeks. Can we reach those colonies in time? If we push the fleet hard and skip some safety checks, yes. "Ma'am, but we'll be cutting it close." Kate made her decision. "Send word to all ships. We're increasing speed by 20%. I don't care if it stresses the engines. Those colonies need our help." 36 hours later, the fleet dropped out of hyperspace at jump point 2. Lieutenant Commander Sam Turner's reconnaissance squadron immediately launched from the carrier ships, their stealth fighters vanishing from sensors as they scouted the surrounding space. "Admiral, this is Turner," came Sam's voice over the comm system 20 minutes later. "I'm reading debris fields from several destroyed ships. Looks like there was a battle here recently." Kate felt cold anger in her stomach. "Human ships or Vorthan?" "Both, ma'am, but mostly human. I count the remains of at least 12 colony defense vessels." Kate closed her eyes for a moment. 12 ships meant hundreds of dead colonists who had tried to defend their homes. "Any survivors?" "Negative, Admiral. But I am picking up a distress beacon from one of the wrecks. It's transmitting a message. Put it through." A woman's voice filled the bridge, broken by static and interference. "This is Captain Ruth Baker, of the colony ship New Hope. If anyone receives this message, the Vorthans have taken the Armstrong mining station. 3,000 civilians were captured and taken to processing ships. The enemy fleet was heading toward the Titan system. Please, if there's anyone out there, help them." Kate felt her jaw clench. Processing ships. The Vorthans weren't just conquering human colonies, they were enslaving the populations. "Turner, can you track the enemy fleet's course?" "Already on it, Admiral. Based on the debris patterns and engine signatures, they're definitely heading deeper into the Outer Rim, toward the main colony clusters." Kate turned to Captain Jenkins. How long to reach the Titan system? 2 more hyperspace jumps, about 4 days at current speed. Make it 3 days, and send a message to all ship captains. I want volunteers for a rescue mission. We're going after those processing ships. The response was immediate. Every ship captain in the fleet volunteered for the mission. Kate selected 20 fast destroyers and cruisers for the rescue operation, while the main fleet continued toward Kepler Station. 3 days later, the rescue force dropped out of hyperspace near the Titan system. Long-range sensors immediately detected the Vorthon fleet orbiting the system's main planet. 15 enemy warships guarded 3 large vessels. That could only be the processing ships. "Admiral, I'm reading human life signs aboard those processing ships," reported the sensor operator. "Thousands of them." Kate studied the tactical display. The enemy fleet was in a defensive formation, expecting trouble. But they weren't expecting Earth's advanced weapons and stealth technology. "All ships, this is Admiral Bishop. We're going to hit them fast and hard. Stealth destroyers will eliminate the outer patrol ships while the cruisers engage the main fleet. Once we have the processing ships secure, we extract every human civilian and get out." The battle began with Sam Turner's stealth fighters attacking the Vorthon patrol ships. The enemy vessels never saw what hit them. Quantum torpedoes struck their hulls and detonated, sending wreckage spinning through space. The main Vorthon fleet responded quickly, turning their heavy weapons toward the attacking Earth ships. But Captain Linda Foster's particle beam cannons outranged the alien weapons by thousands of kilometers. Her precise fire tore through Vorthon armor like paper. "Enemy command ship is launching fighters," called out the tactical officer. Kate watched as dozens of small Vorthon craft swarmed toward the Earth fleet. They looked fast and dangerous, but they had never faced human phase fighters before. Commander Bill Tracy led his squadron into the enemy formation. His fighters shifted partially, out of normal space, becoming ghost-like images that the Vorthon weapons couldn't target properly. The alien pilots tried desperately to hit targets that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Meanwhile, the human fighters' quantum torpedoes found their marks with deadly accuracy. Within minutes, the entire Vorthon fighter force had been destroyed. "Admiral, we have control of the processing ships," reported Captain Mike Turner from his destroyer. "I'm sending boarding teams to secure the human prisoners." The rescue operation took 2 hours. Earth Marines moved through the alien ships, fighting scattered Vorthon guards and leading thousands of frightened colonists to safety. Kate watched the evacuation through her bridge monitors, feeling pride and anger in equal measure. The colonists looked terrible. Thin, dirty, and scared, they had been packed into the processing ships like cargo. Many were injured or sick, but they were alive and they were free. "Medical teams to the hangar bays," Kate ordered. "I want every rescued civilian examined and treated." As the last prisoners were evacuated, Kate made a decision that would send a message throughout the galaxy. "All ships, target the processing ships. Quantum warheads, maximum yield." "Ma'am, the ships are empty now," Captain Jenkins pointed out. "I know, but I want the Vorthons to understand what happens to anyone who enslaves human beings." The quantum warheads struck the alien ships and detonated like miniature suns. When the light faded, nothing remained but scattered atoms drifting through space. Dr. Helen Parks met Kate in the medical bay where the rescued colonists were being treated. The xenobiologist had been interviewing the prisoners, learning about Vorthon plans and capabilities. "Admiral, the news isn't good," Helen reported quietly. "The Vorthons have processing ships throughout this region of space. They're not just conquering colonies, they're systematically enslaving the entire human population of the Outer Rim." Kate looked at the families huddled together on medical beds. Children clung to their parents while Earth doctors treated their injuries. These people had lost everything, but at least they were alive. "How many more processing ships?" "The prisoners. Think there are at least 20 more, scattered across different star systems. Each one holds thousands of human slaves." Kate felt sick thinking about all those people trapped in alien ships, waiting for rescue that might never come. But Earth's fleet couldn't save everyone at once. They had to prioritize. What about Kepler Station? Any word from the prisoners? Yes, Admiral. The Vorthons are planning to attack it within the next 48 hours. They want to make an example of any colony that resists. Kate made her decision. We continue to Kepler Station. Once we drive off the Vorthon fleet there, we Captain Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Kepler Station, watching the tactical display with tired eyes. 3 weeks had passed since the Vorthon fleet first arrived, and the situation had grown worse with each passing day. His small defense force of 8 ships had been reduced to just 2 barely functioning vessels. The Guardian, one of his last frigates, limped through space with its engines damaged and its hull cracked in 3 places. Captain Nancy White had kept the old ship fighting despite having no working shields and only half power to her weapons. Her crew of 35 had worked miracles to keep the ship operational. The patrol boat Comet was in even worse shape. Commander Joe Parker had taken direct hits from Vorthon plasma cannons, and his ship could barely maintain orbit around the station. Most of his weapon systems were offline, and his crew was down to 18 people. Sir, the Vorthons are moving into attack formation again, reported Lieutenant Ben Cooper from his communication station. The young officer looked like he hadn't slept in days, which was probably true. Everyone on the station was running on emergency rations and pure determination. Jake studied the enemy fleet through the station's external cameras. 60 Vorthon warships surrounded Kepler Station like wolves around wounded prey. For 3 weeks, they had been content to wait and let the humans slowly starve. But something had changed. Admiral Kresh was preparing for a final assault. "How much power do we have left for the shields?" Jake asked his engineering officer. "Maybe 40 minutes at current drain, sir. After that, we're defenseless." 40 minutes. Jake looked around the command center at his exhausted crew. They had fought bravely and held out longer than anyone thought possible. But courage couldn't overcome physics. When the shields failed, the Vorthons would crack the station open like an egg. Down in the medical bay, Dr. Lisa Carter worked on a wounded miner who had been hurt when a piece of debris punched through the station's outer hull. The man's leg was badly broken, but Lisa had run out of proper medical supplies days ago. She was using improvised splints made from scrap metal and torn bed sheets. "Doctor, how is he?" asked Amy, who had been helping her mother tend to the wounded. At 17, Amy had seen more death and suffering in the past 3 weeks than most people experienced in a lifetime. "He'll live if we can keep him stable," Lisa replied quietly. "But I'm worried about infection. We don't have enough antibiotics left." Amy nodded and moved to check on the other patients. The medical bay was crowded with injured defenders and sick civilians. Many were suffering from malnutrition because food supplies were running dangerously low. In the deepest levels of the station, Pete Sullivan crawled through maintenance tunnels, trying to find ways to squeeze more power from the failing systems. The station's main reactor was operating at only 60% capacity, and the backup generators were beginning to overheat. "Computer, show me power distribution for Section 7, Pete said into his handheld device. "Section 7 experiencing multiple system failures," the computer replied in its emotionless voice. "Life support operating at minimal levels. Estimated time to total failure, 6 hours, 14 minutes. Pete cursed under his breath. 6 hours. Even if the Vorthons didn't attack, the station would start dying on its own. He had to find more power somewhere, or thousands of people would suffocate in the darkness. Above him, in the station's civilian areas, families huddled together in emergency shelters. Mrs. Johnson, an elderly teacher, read stories to a group of frightened children while their parents worked at whatever jobs could still be done. The kids didn't understand why they couldn't go outside to play, or why the adults looked so worried all the time. "Will the bad aliens go away soon?" asked a little girl with blonde hair and bright blue eyes. Mrs. Johnson smiled and stroked the child's hair. "I hope so, sweetheart," I hope so. But privately, the old teacher wasn't sure anyone would survive the next few days. The Vorthons had made their intentions clear: surrender or die. There were no other options. On the bridge of the Vorthan flagship, Admiral Kresh studied the human mining station with cold satisfaction. The siege had lasted longer than he expected, but the outcome was inevitable. The humans had fought with surprising determination, but determination couldn't overcome superior firepower. "Admiral, our sensors show that the human shields are failing," reported Captain Thale, his second-in-command. "Their power systems are operating at critical levels." Kresh's yellow eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Good. How many humans are aboard that station?" "Approximately 12,000, sir. A mixture of miners, technicians, and their families." "Excellent. We'll keep the healthy adults for labor camps and process the rest for biological materials. The children might be useful for experimental purposes." Captain Thale's tail twitched with excitement. "Should we demand their surrender one final time?" "No. I want to make an example of this place. When word spreads that we destroyed an entire human colony, other settlements will surrender without resistance." Kresh activated his fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Kresh. Prepare for final assault. I want that station reduced to scrap metal within 1 hour." Back on Kepler Station, Jake Morrison received reports that the Vorthan fleet was powering up weapons and moving into attack positions. This was it. After 3 weeks of holding out against impossible odds, their time had finally run out. "Sir, should we try to evacuate the civilians?" asked Lieutenant Cooper. Jake shook his head sadly. "Where would they go, Ben? We don't have enough escape pods for 12,000 people, and the Vorthans would just hunt them down anyway." He activated the station-wide communication system. "Attention all personnel, this is Captain Morrison. The enemy is preparing for their final attack. I want everyone to know how proud I am of the courage you've shown these past 3 weeks. You fought like heroes, every one of you." Jake paused, looking out at the red dwarf star that had watched over their home for so many years. "We may not survive what's coming, but we'll face it together as free human beings. That's something the Vorthans can never take away from us." In the medical bay, Lisa Carter held her daughter close as the station's lights flickered and dimmed. Around them, wounded patients waited quietly for the end. Many were too weak to be afraid anymore. "Mom, will it hurt?" Amy asked quietly. Lisa fought back tears. "No, honey. It will be quick." Pete Sullivan abandoned his work in the maintenance tunnels and ran toward the medical bay to be with his family. If these were their last minutes together, he wanted to spend them holding the people he loved most. Throughout the station, 12,000 human beings prepared for death. Some prayed to whatever gods they believed in. Others wrote final messages to loved ones they would never see again. Parents comforted children and tried to be brave for their sake. But in the command center, something unexpected happened. Lieutenant Ben Cooper's communication board lit up with an incoming transmission from the edge of the star system. "Sir, I'm picking up a massive quantum signature," Ben called out with excitement in his voice. "Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace at maximum range." Jake hurried over to the sensor station. "How many ships?" "I'm reading 150 vessels, sir, and they're big. Much bigger than anything the Vorthans have." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. 150 ships. That was more firepower than the entire Outer Rim had ever seen in one place. "Can you identify them?" Ben's fingers flew over his controls, trying to clean up the sensor readings. "Sir, they're broadcasting Earth Defense Force identification codes. It's a human fleet." Jake stared at the tactical display in disbelief. For 3 weeks, they had been alone against impossible odds. They had sent desperate messages into the void, hoping someone would hear their plea for help. And now, when all hope seemed lost, Earth itself had answered their call. "Open a channel," Jake ordered, his voice shaking with emotion. The response came immediately. "Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Kate Bishop of the Earth Defense Force. We received your message. Sorry we're late." Jake felt tears streaming down his face as he replied, "Admiral, we thought Earth had forgotten about us. We thought we were alone. You were never alone, Captain. Earth has been preparing for this moment for 15 years. Now stand back and let us show these aliens what happens when they threaten human beings." Throughout Kepler Station, the news spread like wildfire. Earth had come. The home world that many colonists had never seen had sent a fleet to save them. In the medical bay, Dr. Carter hugged her daughter tight as hope returned to their hearts. Pete Sullivan ran through the corridors, shouting the news to everyone he met. Earth ships are here! We're saved!" Even Admiral Kresh felt a moment of uncertainty as his sensors detected the approaching human fleet. 150 ships was more than he had expected, but his own fleet numbered 60 experienced warships. The humans might have numbers, but the Vorthans had been fighting and winning battles for months. "All ships, maintain attack formation," Kresh ordered. "These humans are probably just more colony ships with light weapons. We'll destroy them along with the mining station." But as the Earth fleet drew closer, long-range sensors began revealing details that made the Vorthon admiral